Yo, what's happening people? My name is Rudra Kush and welcome back to a new video. So as I mentioned in my last video that I will be posting a breakdown video for this Melodic Techno template.
Thank you. On a voyage.
So here we are. In this video, I will be breaking down this melodic techno track that is inspired by Mrak from Afterlife. So we will deep down in the project and we will see how everything was made, what kind of samples and presets I have used, and also how I have structured everything. So without wasting any time, let's jump into it. So here is the project file. So let's start with the foundation of this track, which is the low end. So for the low end, I have two layers of the bass. So this is the kick that I have used. So very deep sounding kick and punchy. So on the kick, I just have an EQ, which is boosting the sub frequencies a little bit. And at the same time, I am cutting a lot of high frequencies. So this is how it sounds with and without the EQ. So as you can see, it's a subtle difference, but it's really adding to the track a lot. It will be way more clear in this part of the track. Let's see. See how the kick and bass glues together with this EQ. Alright, other than that, I just have an auto filter which I'm using to automate the low end for the kick. So in these sections, I'm just cutting the low end around 120 Hertz, 130 Hertz. Just to transition from one section to another. And that's pretty much it for the kick. Up next, we have this group, which is the bass group, and BG stands for bass group. And on the group itself, I have some processing. So I have a saturator just to beef up the bass a little bit more. So I'm adding just a tiny bit of, drive and also reducing the overall volume at the same time for gain staging purpose. Other than that, I have a glue compressor just to compress everything and make them like one. And next, I just have an scope to see the waveform for phasing issues. So nothing crazy. And then I have a limiter which I have set to -11, and the kick is peaking at -10. So I like to have my kicks a little bit louder than the bass. And finally, we have an sidechain compressor to give that pumping feel. So we have two layers for the bass, and this is how the first layer sounds like. So this is more like the sub frequencies. So the patch itself is pretty simple. So we have a sub oscillator and an oscillator 1, which is just a square wave, and it's pitched down 1 octave with a plucky envelope, which is assigned to this MG Low 18 filter. So in terms of sound design, it is very simple. And we do have some effects. So we have distortion, we have this hyper, EQ I'm not using it, and reverb also I'm not using it. So we have distortion and some hyper dimension. And other than that, I have no effects on the track itself because it's just a sub sound, and this preset was working well in this track. So this is the name of the preset if you want to have a look. But this was working well, so I didn't process it much. And this is how it sounds with the kick. So this is our low end. So I have one more bass layer which will help us to cut through the mix, and it will sound good on small speakers as well, like a mid bass. So this layer is what you will hear on small speakers. And I have cut the low end around 120 hertz, and nothing special. So this one is just two basic mini shapes and with a plucky envelope which is controlling this filter. So this is a shape for the volume envelope, amp envelope, and this one is just controlling this MG filter, MG low 12 filter. And we do have a little bit of noise. This is how the noise sounds like. So this is also being automated by this filter. So in terms of effects, it's pretty simple. We just have some hyperdimension and some EQ to cut this, and some delay and some OTT and this reverb. So pretty simple patch, but very effective. So this is how our complete low end sounds like. Alright, so that was our low end. So let's move on to the drums. So the drums are pretty simple. I have some loops and some one shots. So on the group itself, I do have a compressor to glue all the drums together. So this one is free. You can download it right now. I'll try to put the link in the description. So for the top loops, I have this loop. So this is coming from the Producer School Voyage pack, and this is the loop that I have used. So this has just a tiny bit of sidechain to give that groove, and I have also panned it to the left a little bit. And the second loop I have is this one. So this one has some processing on it. So let's turn these two off, and this is how the original loop sounds like, and with some sidechain. And I'm using this vocoder to give it like a shaker kind of feel. And I'm also automating this release with this LFO, just to create some movement in this loop, because without this it's way too static. And this loop is also, it's just like static. So, to give some movement, I'm using this vocoder. And let's run this off for now. And then we have this snare sound, pretty simple. And I have noticed in most of the in most of these type of tracks, Mrak uses a very punchy and sharp snare. So very similar. And then I am layering this snare with a clap sound, which sounds like this, just to give a little body to the snare. So let's see how both of them sounds like. So for the main snare, I'm also sending it to the reverb, to a room reverb. And this one is the open hat. So again, nothing special, just a EQ, and that's pretty much all. And this track, I am not using it, so we can get rid of it, and same as this one. So yeah, this is how the entire drum group sounds like. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and that's all you need for these type of tracks. Alright, so let's move on to more interesting stuff, which are all the synths that I have used. So as you can see, we have a couple of layers. So first, let's start with this one. So this is how it sounds like. So in terms of MIDI, it's very simple, but the magic is in the sound. So for the sound, I'm using Serum, and this is the preset from odd frequency, which is called lead on the low, and this is how it sounds like. So pretty nice sound. And I have a big reverb and delay on the sound. So this is how it sounds without the reverb and the delay. So very nice sound. And I have bunch of delay and some shimmer because the pattern I have used here has some gaps. So to fill these gaps, I have used a long reverb, and it really fills out all the frequencies in this section. And this is how it sounds like if I just turn off everything else. So you see how that fills up the empty space between these melodies. Let me just play you from here. And in terms of processing, I just have a reverb, a delay, and some EQ to cut out the low end and the very high end. And this auto filter is there just to introduce the sound from the break section. So here. Just like that. And finally we have some sidechain. Not too extreme, just tiny bit of sidechain because this is a lead sound and we don't want it to be pumping a lot. So this is just to give the movement for the lead. And then next we have this brass sound. So really cool sound, and this one is coming from Evolution of Sound, Techno Brass, and this is how it sounds like. And I'm pretty sure I think I have tweaked some of the settings from this patch, but the patch is very simple. It's just like two saw waves and with this envelope shape that is controlling the filter. Very simple. And in terms of effects, we have distortion, some chorus, some delay, and compressor, reverb, and some EQ to clean up the low end. So it's a pretty simple patch, but it's very nice. So let's check out the effects on this track. First of all, I have this automation which is controlling the filter, and it's opening up After that, I have an EQ which is just cleaning up the low end because this sound has a lot of low end. Next we have this compressor which is just there to sidechain the sound from the kick. Very simple. So stuff like this really keeps the atmosphere of your track very interesting. I mean, like, the main lead sound is this, but this is just there to contribute to that feel of the track. Basically to fill the atmosphere. Very nice. Up next we have this groove element which is creating the groove with the track. So this sound is just helping to enhance the groove for the bass. So this is the MIDI if you want to see. So this is just adding to the groove of the track. And in terms of sounds, it's very simple. So just a plucky envelope that is controlling the filter, and with these two waves. some OTT. So this compressor is really bringing out that texture from this sound. And other things are pretty simple. So some chorus, some EQ, another filter which is controlling, I think, the high end of the song. Yeah. Some distortion, some delay, and some reverb. So the patch is pretty simple, but the main thing here is this envelope which is controlling this filter. And in terms of the effects, I have this LFO which is at random, and this is controlling the filter here. So this is creating a lot of movement in the track. And then we have an EQ just to clean up the low end and some sidechain compression. So one tip I want to give you here is I receive a lot of projects from my students. So I do offer coaching sessions. So if you are interested in that, the link is in the description of this video. So I receive a lot of projects, and one common mistake I see a lot is each and every sound is heavily over processed. I mean, I always try to keep my project like super simple. I mean, mixing doesn't have to be really complicated. You just have to know what you need. I don't really, put a lot of plugins on the track, and if I just need an EQ, I just have an EQ on the track. If it sounds good to my ear, it is good, and if I'm lacking something, then I can go for distortion, maybe some saturation, some filters, but if the sound is good by its own, it is. You don't really have to put 1,000 plugins on the track to make it sound good. And if it's not fitting the vibe of the track, probably it's time to change the sound, and you have to look for a sound that fits to the vibe of the track. So sound selection is very important. So if your sounds are good, your mixing process will be fairly simple. Alright, so let's check what other sounds we have. And this one is just the accent lead, which is coming sometimes in the track. So here. So this is how it sounds like. So for the sound, this is again coming from Serum, and this is from Sam Smyer's pack called Globu. So again, super simple patch, just 2 sound waves, and I'm just automating this brighter knob to make it like brighter over time. And for the effects, we have distortion, some filter, EQ, and pretty basic stuff. I mean, you can take a look here. And this is how this patch sounds like. Very nice. And for the effects, I have an EQ, an auto pan, which is moving the sound from left to the right and creating this really nice effect. And lastly, we have a sidechain. So this sound is just acting like a ear candy to the track, and this sound is mostly coming on the transition, points like here to transition like from one section to another. And to keep this sound, a little bit more interesting, I have moved this MIDI clip up an octave here. So here it is on A1, here it is on A2. So just copied the same thing over above an octave to create more variation in the track. So up next we have this this stab sounds. So the sound is coming from Nexus, and for some reason whenever I load Nexus it just like crashes the whole project sometimes. So that's why I bounced the audio, because some of you might not have Nexus, but Serum is like pretty common, so everyone have Serum. So that's why I just freezed and flattened these stab sounds. But this is like very simple. I'm like, so these are just 16th notes, and here we have like 32-second notes. With a bunch of reverb and delay. And here what I did, I just like moved the MIDI up an octave. So the same pattern, but with the MIDI being, an octave up from the main. And in terms of effect, I had just an EQ on this and just a little bit of OTT, I think, and that's all. But I freeze the track and I accidentally saved it on the top, so I don't have the MIDI with me. But this is, I'm like very simple, some 16th notes and 32 notes, and all you need like is a stab sound. And yes, you can get the similar effect. And just to let you know guys, I am working on a sample pack which will be out soon, and that sample pack will have like quite a few of stab sounds like this, and hopefully it will be out soon. Alright, so let's check out the next sound we have. Alright, so this is the main drop sound synth that we have, and this is coming from Serum. And I think this is the stock library for Serum. Yeah, this is coming from the sequences. This is Dark Runner, and I did not change anything in the sound other than I think this LFO rate. But yeah, pretty simple sound. But yeah, this is the sound if you want. And in terms of MIDI, I just have like one note which is on the first downbeat of the track. Very nice sound. And I have an EQ which is cutting the low end, and it was way too bright for my taste, so I have just cut some of the high end and this frequency here. And then we have some delay to fill up this empty space a little bit, and then just a sidechain compressor and nothing else. And to fill up these big spaces, we have one more sound, which is this screech sound, and this is also coming from Serum. With a big delay. So for this sound, this is coming from Serum, and I think this is just a FX sound. Yeah, I was just scrolling through some presets and I just found this FX sound. So this is how it sounds like, and it works perfectly with this track. So this is basically acting as the response for this this sound here. So this is like a call and response, which is just a songwriting style. So these are all call and responses. So one calls and then we have something another happening, and something else happening is here and then here. So this just creates like a very nice like groove to the track. Your tracks are lacking interest, so I would say try this technique, this call and response technique. So have one thing that calls and then other thing that responses, and you can do it like with multiple instruments, and it will create a very nice effect. Alright, so in terms of processing, we just have an EQ, some delay, and some sidechain compressors, so nothing crazy. Alright, so next we have this ARP sound. Let me just turn off all these for now so that we can focus on the sound itself. So this is setting the vibe of the track, and this is gonna stay in the background to fill up the empty space. Also, at the same time, it creates that tension, which is very, very important in these type of tracks. And in terms of sound, it is very, very simple. It is just like a saw wave with a plugging envelope, which is assigned to this filter. Very, very simple. And these are the effects, some reverb and delay, nothing really crazy. And this is the pattern if you want to see. So basically this is the whole pattern. I'm just repeating it over and over again. So if you want to create like tension in the track, so what I would suggest is like keep the notes, close, and don't go like, like this. So this is gonna create like more euphoric and melodic feel if you like spread out these notes a lot. But if you want to create tension in the track, so try to keep the notes like close, and it will just create a hypnotic vibe. Whereas if I have like some notes like this, it's gonna make it like more melodic. So it's gonna create like an euphoric feel. But for Mrak style, he's cinematic and dark, so that's why we are keeping the notes close so that we can have a darker feel. So the sound itself is pretty simple. We have an EQ and auto filter, which is there to just exit out from the track. Nothing special, and just a sidechain compressor. And up next, so we have these pads, and here I have used them in the break section. So the MIDI is this giant clip. And this is very, very simple. So what I have is like the triad, and then I'm just adding some harmonies on the top. And if you see, I'm just building it towards the this build up section. And when we reach at the build up, so we have all these notes just constantly ringing out to create more tension in the build up. So this is how it sounds like. Just to create the atmosphere in the break. And then again we are building it up towards the build up. And here I'm just letting them ring out for the duration of this for this build up. The patch is very, very nice, and this patch I believe is from the producer school, yeah, and it's called The Elder. So there's a lot of movement going on in this patch with this LFO, and this is on the chorus here. Some OTT, some phaser. So yeah, very nice sound. And I do have like an EQ which is cutting a lot of like low end. So this is without the EQ. Let me turn off this shimmer also. So have a lot of low frequencies, and in the break I just wanted to have atmosphere, so that's why I'm just cutting the low end, and also I have just a little boost here on the high end. And to make it like a little smoother, I used this Valhalla Supermassive, which is like a free plugin you can download. Basically, it just has like some cool ambient effects, and this is how it sounds with the Supermassive. Making it way more like ambient, whereas without this, it sounds like this. So super simple but super effective. And last but definitely not least, we have this pad sound. So this is a loop that I have used, and this is how it sounds like. So again, like very simple string sounds, and the main thing to notice here is this shimmer, this supermassive, again like big reverb, and this auto filter, and without this sounds like this. So I wanted, so this had some movement, and I didn't quite like the movement, so that's why I did like, you know, cut the low end and just try to cut some high end, and to smooth out the sound and to, you know, remove this this movement in the track. Yeah, I used Supermassive again with this preset Billions and Billions, and the mix is at 100%. So my goal was to create an atmosphere for the track with this layer, and I found this really cool loop for that. And with this Supermassive, it is fitting very well in the track to create that cinematic vibe. Because Mrak, I have noticed in most of his tracks, they sound very cinematic, and he uses a lot of like strings and organic sounds. So the sound was very organic, but had a lot of movement. So just to overcome that, I have used this Supermassive, and this is contributing to that cinematic vibe, and it will sound very nice with this pads here. Basically, Mrak, you know, his tracks have a lot of atmosphere and like cinematic sounds. So stuff like this can really help you to bring out a lot from your track. So yeah, super simple stuff, and I think that's pretty much it for the sounds. And other than that, I just have some effects. These are just downlifters and uplifters, and I do have like a small vocal in there, and this is how it sounds like. Let me turn on the group.
Let me take you on a voyage.
So this one is coming from the producer school, and this is the name for the vocal.
Let me take you on a voyage.
So for the processing, I don't have much on these vocals. These were like super clean, so I just used them just like that. But I did add a little bit of delay, so nothing special.
Let me take you.
Other than that, like I just have some effects, and I'm gonna quickly go through all these effects. Let's just solo this group, and this is just some white noise. With some like big reverb.
Let me take you.
So yeah, nothing crazy, and this is the long fill, the snare build up. So it's really okay to you know, sometimes use loops. If I'm really struggling, you know, I just end up like, using like a loop. But yeah, this is just snare buildup. So just with a low cut and a uplifter, a riser I mean, for the buildup with the same big reverb. And here we have some snares just before the drop and this big snare. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the track. And finally, for our main channel, we have just a glue compressor to glue everything together, and just a limiter to boost up the volume. So let's see how everything sounds like. So yeah, that was everything for this video. So once again, if you want to grab this template, the link is in the description of this video. You can go ahead and download this template right now. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, peace.